Here we are again, Erica Knoll next to me. Widmer with the Unbroken Talk. Those of you who are tuning in for the first time, this is about regular everyday people like Erica, people inspiring people by sharing their journey, the unbroken. That EKG goes up and down. The weights are life, how heavy it gets. And the word unbroken is just unpacking somebody's mind. And Erica is no different. I read her intake and I can't wait for this journey to unpack the pressures of what you're supposed to look like, how you're supposed to be able to fit in, and the result of those pressures, alcoholism and drug overdosing or suicidal. But I got to tell you, Erica, not her. She had a different plan and she's going to share it. So, Erica Knoll, thank you so much for coming on the show. I am truly excited to hear you impact the audience about your journey on how strong that mind is. So, we need to give the mic to you. I need to button my lip and let's hear the journey of Erica, what it was like to be Erica.
Thank you. Thank you for that introduction. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here. So my story goes way back. I didn't know it at the time, but going through everything that I went through and coming out the other side, it started young. It's my journey to radical self-love. And that's what I like to call it. Everything starts with yourself. You have to love yourself first. And that was my goal because I didn't for almost my entire life. So if I take you back to the 90s in elementary school, not wanting to raise my hand and speak up even if I knew the answer, or feeling like I wanted to vomit when the teacher would call on me to read something, moving on to middle school and just feeling like I didn't have the experience everybody had. And high school, I didn't felt like I was all that pretty. So I jumped on every fashion trend possible, got my nails done, did everything I could to try to fit in. And college, I deemed myself the good girl and I never, experimented or partied or really did anything fun because I felt like I couldn't. And post college,
I know you're on a roll on sharing, but I need to time out. I need to time out because you shared, and I've interviewed so many people, and just as the gray is true, I'm 59 years old, having experiences and interactions with friends and family and all the above, what you described was not uncommon, right? I mean, that
oh yeah, not at all.
is so normal, but I want to really dive into when you first realized this at such an early age and where your mind and how that was starting to grow. With being so early on, we're going second grade, somewhere around there. Is that where we're starting at? So with that said, and what are we at second grade? What is that, like 6 years old, 7 years
Yeah,
old,
like
8 years
seven,
old,
eight.
somewhere around there? Okay, so talk to me about the household. Mother, father, brother, sisters. Where are we? Any?
Yeah. See, that's the thing is like I didn't know it at the time, so I thought everything was normal. My household, I had, both my parents. I had one sister, she's 2 years older than me. I felt like, I had a very normal childhood.
Athletics or anything involved with activities or any of that kind of stuff?
I did do some sports, but nothing. I was a softball girl. Um,
Softball. Was mom and dad? Because we think of this, and you know it very well because of what you stand for and what you're going to share, who you are now. And when you say you thought it was normal, well, there's no thinking because, as an infant, when you're born, you are a canvas. And you are now taken away. We're not going to discount the fact of biologically, if there is something chemically from a DNA standpoint that is not normal that could relate to certain personality traits or we'll just say like generally average normal. We'll just kind of say those terminologies. And as a blank canvas, whatever environment you are at that, you're so young, your mind is just so virgin. The influences of mom and dad, brother, sisters, and the surroundings, whether you are that extrovert, introvert, initially, I mean, that starts to blossom on who you are, and then your surroundings will kind of manifest that. But, you said that was normal. Normal meaning you did have some athletics. Mom and dad, were they pushing towards? I always talk about clubs and activities because, we know as adults that you learn so many valuable tools being part of society. And when I did that intro, that phone, oh my God, that makes everybody an introvert who wants to be on it, right? You can't interact. So, mom and dad, did they kind of gear and your sister gear towards athletics or participation at that early age? Yes. What's your thought? What
Yeah, I
is?
mean, they were there for me. They supported me with whatever we wanted to do. I was more athletic at the time than my sister was. She wasn't really
Mhm.
interested. So, I mean, they were there. They didn't push me. They wouldn't let me quit, but they didn't push me. They didn't force me into anything. They didn't put that pressure on me.
So relatively, mom and dad nurturing her. So how about from a faith-driven, active on? Because I know that always has an impact. Was there a religious base with mom and dad at all early on?
No, mom was Catholic, my dad was Jewish. They raised us to be Catholic.
Mm.
We did the communion and all of that stuff, and then we kinda just fell off, I
Fell
guess. Like,
off.
it wasn't.
Understood.
Yeah.
Which is normal. You find your own as you grow on,
Yeah.
as you go on. So as now this is where I want to impact it. As you start to mature mentally and seeing things around, you shared you were more on the pullback shy side as you started to get, you noticed that when you were still involved with the athletics, and where are we now? Maybe 10, 11, single, double, early double digits in age. Did you talk about your personality and your surroundings, your friends now? Is this where it became right, bright and center that it was more of a drawback?
I think it did. Again, I don't think I realized it 100% at the time, but when I think back, it was like I was constantly comparing myself to other people, feeling like I didn't fit in. I kind of felt like I just existed, like I was just there. I didn't really have a purpose. I wasn't bullied, but I didn't have a ton of friends. I wasn't super popular. Wasn't necessarily a loner, but I wasn't like having a ton of friends and going out all the time. And I just felt like my anxiety and my lack of confidence, my wondering why I wasn't like everybody else, like that was running my entire life, like well into my
So you
30s.
so this is interesting. This is where I want to dive in, and it's important. Obviously, I like to try to nail down and sort of find the why, because you found how to solve it. I always love it because when I talk to individuals, I know the ending of the story. A beautiful young lady who knows who she is. So somebody trying to relate now might be feeling what you felt then. And if from the why, from that standpoint, when it became more that, yeah, man, it's like, I am I not getting all the attention? Why do I look like? Were you active still in any type of sports or softball at that time with those feelings at all?
I did softball up until high school. Once I started high school, I wasn't as into it. It was too intense for me with
So
all the
it started,
practicing.
yeah. So it started
Yeah.
really unfolding. So if you can think back, so that feeling, how did you play at a high level? Were you average? How were you? Because in athletics, there's a high level of competition. So how were you part within the team? I'm curious to this feeling on not being good enough. How was your performance as an athlete at that early age?
Yeah, I feel like I was pretty average, and I think that's also why I stopped playing because I didn't think I was good enough to make the high school team and take it further. I had my moments. I often played third base because I had the arm to be able to throw the ball all the way to first, and that made me feel good. But other positions, other things, I feel like I was just average hitting the ball. I was just average. So I think I never actually thought about that part of my life in relation to that feeling of not being good enough. But yeah, I think that's really why I stopped playing.
Yeah, so I mean that I get, and I can relate as an athlete that insecurity at an early age started really blossoming, then sounding, because athletics, as you get older, it's more competition, right? And then you've got all the travel teams and you got the expectations on, scholarships or what have you. So this is maybe it started amplifying your feelings on. Now, did you, any friends or maybe mom or dad or anybody that you potentially confided in that you shared at this early age on what you feel you were struggling with? Was there any conversations or anything, or you just hit it, buried it, and dealt with it?
Yeah, I kinda buried it because again, I don't know, I realized it. I don't wanna keep saying that I didn't realize it because I knew it
Mm,
was there. I knew I felt a certain kinda way. I knew that I was sitting there like, "Oh, why don't I look like her? Why am I not that pretty? Why are they so much better at me than this?" Or whatever it is. But I just thought it was like normal stuff growing up, so I didn't even think to confide, and some of the people that I was comparing myself to were some of my closest friends. So
mm.
I was like, "I'm not gonna talk to them because I don't wanna make them feel bad, like, why aren't I more like you?" So I just kind of dealt with it because I thought this is just a
You're
normal part of growing up.
Yeah, you were dealing with a whole whole 'nother world inside your head
Yeah.
alone. Yeah, I mean, and listen, I can relate, and this isn't about my story, but just understanding, that feeling and just putting up a front. The question, if you can remember, I would assume that the focus more or less when, Pandora's box was opened up of that sense, we're just gonna call it a very insecure young lady, and it started really blossoming the more you think about it, right? That anxiety's door opens up, and then it takes a life of its own, as you're going to unpack as we talk more about the journey, ladies. But how about the friendship within itself? Were they encouraging with you on anything you did to give you some encouraging words? And I assume you blocked it out and didn't agree because it got worse. I mean, was that nurturing type of friendship? Just to really set the stage on how you started that point in your life. What's
Yeah.
your comments on that?
As I got older, I feel like I realized a lot of my friendships and a lot of my romantic relationships, they were very one-sided. So I became not only insecure, but I became very codependent. And
Mm,
that was like the biggest thing that like hit me hard, that made me
mm,
realize I needed to make a change in my life because I was so reliant on that external validation, that fear of being alone, that I didn't have the courage to walk away from a friendship or a relationship that wasn't encouraging or supporting, and I didn't have the courage to talk about it. I just felt like I didn't wanna be alone, so I'm gonna just bury this and I'm gonna deal with it, and yeah, so a lot of those friendships, the ones that I was comparing myself to, they weren't very encouraging or supporting.
and we all have a sense of insecurity to some level of a degree, as that could make you want to strive to be a better version of yourself in a positive way to overcome that insecurity I referenced to. Is if you're doing something in your life brand new and you're insecure with the fact you don't want to make a fool of yourself or do whatever it may be. Now, that's kind of a normal thing at any level. But with you, such an early age, it started really blossoming and having the wrong friendship. What really manifested this, and friendship, the lack of, and relationships as you got older really just made you dig your heels in on the severity of your anxiety, I assume, right? So we're unpacking those feelings all through high school, you mentioned. Was, you know, was there any other things that were in a negative way during your life that you struggled with because of that? Was there any drinking or drugs or just being in the wrong? You just kept to yourself and buried it down and went through a life that you thought was expected for yourself, I'm assuming.
Exactly, yeah. Luckily, I did not go down any of those paths. Again, one of the identities that I held was, like, the good girl, so I felt like
Okay.
which I guess in that sense served me well because I
Hell
felt like
yeah.
I couldn't do that, like, I
Yeah.
never experimented with that kinda stuff, so yeah, I just kind of felt like, I had this mindset, and I was so stuck in this mindset that if I wasn't needed, I wouldn't be liked. So a lot of times in
Mm,
my friendships and relationships, it was like, I wanted to do everything I possibly can for them. I wanted to help them. I wanted to fix them. I wanted to, whatever they needed, I wanted to be there. And that's a lot of why they were one sided. And I just thought, like, this is just how it is. Like, it is what it is. And that's like one of the statements that I feel like that's a mindset that really needs to be rewired when
yeah.
like,
I
it is
mean,
what it is, like, it's not.
wow. You impact that is a man, it definitely shed light for me on what you just shared. That mindset you have, and we talk about it's me, wanting to know what makes you tick, but you developed that mindset of to satisfy your insecurities that you blossomed was being in a relationship, whatever it was, friendship or romantic, what have you, but being in a relationship that really, I'm going to call it for what it is, totally being taken advantage of, but it satisfied your sense of value because somebody needed you. Whether the need was justified or taken advantage of or whatever it may be, it made you feel whole, at least in your mind. We can compare this. Certainly, I'm assuming it didn't happen to you and stop me if it did. Very, and maybe you'll unpack thing, but you think about relationships even today as adults that are physically abusive or anything on really the severity of being taken advantage of financially or any of that feeling of being and wanting, and this is so common of being needed. I mean, we all as human beings loved, right? I mean, you want to have companionship and such, but if you're not at peace with yourself or what you're going to unpack, you're not, and you're not at the point looking in the mirror and saying, yeah, I love myself and have respect for myself. You went down such a hard time and you thought that was normal at that time, right? I mean,
Yeah,
you thought that
yeah,
was
that was
very, very normal.
yeah, I thought that was just again, I thought that's just how it was, and at the time, I didn't know mindset work existed. I didn't think it was possible to change anything, and I was just like, "Okay, like, this is just how I am. This is just my life," and at times, I even wondered why I was being punished for being a good person. I'm like, "I'm such a good person. Why are these the people that I keep attracting? Why is this the mindset that I keep having?" And I'm like, "Well, I guess that's just how I am."
So let me ask you, and as we unpack right before, because I know all these unfortunate stories, they're unfortunate, but they're fortunate because the best version of yourself is yet to come. But we'll all have defining moments throughout our entire life, and you are going to share one that extremely was impactful. I'm assuming with these toxic relationship, was there anything you want to share, like really that hit you over the head where because you just said why me? Why am I being treated like that? You have any specific examples that come to mind that was really impactful that probably led to what you're going to share with your defining moment, right?
Absolutely. Some of the relationships were just me in that mindset of feeling like I couldn't stick up for myself. I couldn't leave because of that fear of being alone. But the definitive moment in it was when I was in a toxic relationship for 2 years. I stayed for 2 years. Luckily, it was not physically abusive or anything like that, but there was a lot of manipulation and, emotional damage going on. And when I finally did get the courage to walk away from that, the breakup was just as toxic. And, it was in March of 2020. So,
COVID, I think that's,
yeah, it was all
yeah,
around the same time.
all
So,
around.
yeah.
So talk to me, share, because this is impactful for others that are almost at a point, or we want to know when that point was. What led you to have that enough is enough? Take me what was going through your mind that led to that.
Yeah, I think I just realized so, protecting his privacy and everything, but there was an addiction involved.
Okay.
And I think, I felt like I did everything that I possibly could to help him. And unfortunately, at the time, he was not ready to fully receive the help. And I just kind of was like, okay, like I was a person because of that codependency. I was like, I have to do every single thing in my mind that I could possibly do, which is why I stayed for so long. And when I hit that point where I was like, I'm out of ideas, like I really don't have anything else, that was my turning
That
point of
was your
like, "All right,
you
like."
reached your limit. Yeah, you
Yeah,
reached your limit. So that, fortunately for you, it came and it wasn't physical. So people listening, we're human, man. Everybody's human. You get, there is going to be that, we always say that boiling point. Hopefully people will hear as it unfolds and what your recommendations are and how you got through. But so you reached the boiling point. So take us through the boiling point. Water's coming over the pot. What does
yeah,
Erica do? How does it unfold, Erica?
yeah. So, I mean, I finally ended it, and then that was when it became very, like, sometimes verbal, toxic in that area. It was, like, just constant, like, text messages and, it just wasn't respecting my boundaries, my decision to end it, and it just I let it that even go on for too long because I was scared to, like, fully, cut
Yeah, I
the
was
cord.
going to get into that. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, was there rebound? And you guys weren't at least living together.
We were not living together,
We're in it
actually.
back. Okay,
No.
you were not. So that would have made it even more messy. But
Yeah.
so was there a bounce back and unfold it?
Yeah, it was like it started out where it was really great and, I thought he might have changed and realized and, so I was, like, easing my way into maybe, the second chance, but then it would just, like, turn almost like a complete 180 and it would be very, verbally saddening to me, like, it was very
Mm,
hurtful,
mm,
it was
mm.
very and I was like, "Okay," like, and I just let the back and forth go on, and eventually, this was in March, so that was the definitive moment, but and in March, I finally told him, I was like, "I am no longer responding to any of your messages ever." And of all the things that I am not strong at, the one thing I am strong at is that if I say I'm not gonna do it, I don't do it. So there was no, like, drunk texting or, like,
Right.
anything
Yeah,
like
yeah,
that.
yeah.
And from that point on, I didn't answer, but I let it continue for him, and he would reach out to me in all different ways until May. And finally in May, I was like, "I can't keep doing this, like, I'm not able to better my life because I'm still reading all these messages." It's like I
Mm.
thought I was in control because I was not responding, but I was still letting his words affect me.
Yeah.
So finally in May, like, I had to block him on all accounts, and I that was 2020, and I haven't heard from him since.
So it took your mind now shifted. You reached throughout your entire life. Now this is 35. You're
Yeah,
35. So 35. So it took you till 35, which in my view, obviously there is no bad time. It took a longer time. It doesn't make a difference because the word it took means that now we're gonna go to the next chapter. So that just you got beat the shit out of mentally. And listen, I don't wish anything on anybody. Physical abuse, figuratively speaking, is way easier to deal with than mental abuse. Being punched in the lip and then not having because that mental abuse you took in the form of what was it, 3 more months via reading Texas.
yeah,
You were still taking the mental abuse, but I'm proud, man. See, this is why I love this channel and talking to regular people. Erica Knoll, they're going to know what kind of individual can absolutely change their mindset when there wasn't specifically anything more impactful than a drip. You had a drip campaign of insecurities that got soaked into the wrong people, that nurtured your insecurities and blossomed the insecurity flower, to the point of this relationship, to the point. So you were at 35, you finally blossomed in this whole big garden of insecurities to a point that you said, this,
Yeah.
hell no. So now unpack that defining moment ends into and blossoms into what path? Take us now. Second half. Chapter
Yeah.
2.
Chapter 2. So yeah, in March of 2020, that's when the initial breakup happened. That's when I said, "I'm no longer answering you." And I just like remember it so vividly of just being at my kitchen counter, reading one of the texts, crying my eyes out, and I just slammed my phone down on the counter and it just hit me. And I was just like, in 35 years, I have never once focused on me. I was always focused on everyone else, and I never, ever, ever in all 35 years focused on me, and that was my definitive moment of, like and it was literally, like, the middle of March, so it was, like, 2 days later, the lockdown hit, and I lived alone at the time, so I
But
was like
that's a
it
blessing.
was.
Is there any, I know grown up Catholic, was any religious anything at that point coming in? Well,
No,
looking
no,
at it
not for me.
as somewhat of a blessing of something.
Yeah,
Were you living alone or with parents still? Or
I was living alone, so it was just me, and I was just, like, with nowhere to go. No one to talk to, nowhere to be, nothing to do. I was like, "This is my time to go all in on me." I made that decision. I signed
awesome.
up for it was my birthday month in March as well, so I
All
signed
right.
up for a virtual women's workshop,
Right
and
on.
from that day forward, my self-love journey started right then and
Look at
there.
that. I mean, man, talk about the courage. You got 35 years up to this point, self and, well, I'm going to say codependent on others to make you feel value. And here you are living alone at the worst possible time in the history of the world, I think, of COVID and shutting down and tell the world telling you, Erica, you're going to be alone now, man. Now it's time for you to step up to that. That is like, and then taking the initiative. If you thought back probably 5, 6, 7, 10 years from that point, you'd be like, hell no, hell no, right? So you join these groups. How does it unpack you, man? Keep us
Yeah.
going.
And it's almost funny, like, the domino effect. So, like, nothing obviously happens overnight. I told you I was still reading those text messages all the way till May, so it wasn't like I made the decision and the next day, I loved myself and the journey was done.
Mm,
It took time. But in that women's workshop, they did just one of those little follow threads like, "Hey, we're all in this together. Like, let's follow each other. Let's keep in touch. Let's connect." And one of the women in there happened to be a life coach and happened I just happened to pick her to follow, and I followed her journey a little bit. She offered like a free challenge type thing. I loved the way she worked and I hired her as my life coach, and she completely changed my life.
that is awesome. Well, and as far as completely changed, some of your most powerful takeaway? Like, what made you feel? Now, keep in mind, I want to keep this front and center. Your mindset is now changing 180 degrees. You are now describing an individual that I did not know in the first chapter. That was not Erica. Now we have a new, she is a dynamo, man. This is a girl that's not taking any prisoners. What was one of the major things being said or coached or implied or technique to make you say, I got this, man. I got this. What was it?
Yeah.
What was
That
impactful?
that's a good question because there were so many impactful moments, and it was like, obviously when I first hired her, I didn't have that mindset yet. So in my
Nope.
head, I was kind of like there was that little part of me that knew I could do this. Otherwise, I wouldn't have hired her. But there was still a majority of me that was like, this isn't going to work. Like,
That little
it's not
part,
going to
man.
happen for me. Like,
Do you
this is
remember that
not.
little part that you saying, I can do that?
Yeah.
I didn't hear anything prior to 35. Like that is, I love this shit. I love the people sharing the change of the mindset. I talk about this mindset all the time. right? And the obvious, I'm going to share this because it's so exciting to hear your story. But the exciting part, people want to be a better version of, they want to lose weight, right? For 35, 40, 50, 60 years, they eat like shit, never worked out, none of the above. They're, 100 pound, whatever. They're overweight. I want to work out. And they will buy the next greatest book or do this app or do this or do that or do this, go in the gym, get a gym membership in January, and they're not to be seen, and buy Peloton, and nothing works. They expect a 35-year-old mindset turn on like that. And you described that it doesn't turn on like this because you shared there's a little part of me that knew I can do it, and the big part of me did not want to. That little part of you is what every single person needs to take away from this interview. Because whether you want to lose weight, get off addiction, get out of abusive relationship, you need to realize that it is a defining moment what you had, and it is that little bit, that inspiration becomes that little bit that you want to take baby steps. Man, it's chipping away. And now you're going to unpack that little bit is a big bit, man. Right? And it took. So that little bit, unfold me. You're going to answer it now, but I just wanted to reiterate how proud I am for you to share. Maybe you didn't realize, but what you're saying is so helpful to others on that little bit. So what was the most impactful thing? There's so many, but I know there's something that stands out
Yeah.
above the other. Something certain.
Yeah, there one of our my first sessions with her, there's always a quote that she said that stuck to me, and she was telling me like the kind of work that we were going to do together and the identity work, the mindset work, the steps we were going to take, and she was just going to be like she was honest with me and she was like you are going to hit rock bottom again. Like it doesn't change overnight, like it's going to happen, but your rock bottom is not going to be as far. And that just always kept me going because it's like, yes, you can fall out of alignment. You can fall off the bandwagon. You're going to have those old thoughts popping in your head all the time. This is new. It's not going to just be an instant gratification. But with each step that you take, when you do fall, you're not falling as far. And it's easier to get back up. And that stuck with me to this day. And it's been years since I've worked with her.
That is awesome. And it's always, if I'll say something similar because it'll resonate with everybody. It's always one step back, two step forward. The one step back, it's the EKJ. One step back, two step forwards. One step back, two step forwards. You're always moving forward, and you may step back, but you're gonna go forward, and you're gonna. It's the same. It's that is such great advice. Okay, unpack and unfold more. You're getting stronger, you're getting better, you're on the journey to the best version. Unfold it. How does it unfold out of COVID? Share that. Workshop in your own mind. How does that
Yeah.
unfold?
It unfolds in baby steps, and I think that's where that little voice comes in because we all want that instant gratification. You want that like, "Oh, I made the decision, I did the thing, I want it to work immediately." And it's just baby steps, and it's little things that seem so basic that are like, "How is this even advice?" But, like, for me, my main goal was to learn to love myself. And so I did little things like, I intentionally stayed single for a year and a half because I needed to be with me. I needed to be in a relationship with me. So I did that. And just little things like I took myself on solo dates. Like going out alone was the scariest thing in the world for me. But those baby steps, I'm like, I can enjoy my own company. No one's staring at me, nobody cares.
And
So
that's
like
awesome, man.
yeah, like little things like that, like just to enjoy yourself. I connected, virtually, obviously, with other women, on the same path and having that support. It's like, oh, relationships can be supportive. And it's really noticing those little bits of evidence that things are changing. Because those little bits then add up to a whole new mindset, a whole new version of you that you're
Building
stepping into.
confidence, man. Just building confidence is wow. Sharing journeys of mindset of change. it's very natural for me being an athlete all through high school and college and training in the whole health and fitness world I do as my passion. But what you described is the exact same thing, only in a self mindset, building confidence within yourself and loving yourself. It's very insightful to see it apply in another way. As I wrestled, so it's like teaching new wrestlers. It's at two steps, forward, one step back. You'll learn a move. You're going to get pinned. You're not. You're going to get better. Keep it. You gain confidence every time. You're gaining confidence. That is absolutely so cool. Yeah. Can you imagine going to dinner for table for one? It's like a Seinfeld episode, but you made it in reality. Dinner for
Yeah.
one.
When I share that with people, I tell them to start small. I'm like, "Go to the beach,
Yeah.
go to a coffee
Yeah.
house." Like, it's perfectly acceptable to be alone there. Work your way up to, the solo vacations and the taking yourself out to dinner. Like,
Yeah.
just realize that you can enjoy your own company.
And then what happens when you're getting ready for your solo date, tongue in cheek, right? You're looking in the mirror, doing your hair. What do you see? What did you see during that part?
I feel like I saw a new person because of that little bit of evidence. I was kind of just like, "I'm doing this." And just the fact that I was doing it was evidence that there was more to come because just, a few months ago, I would have never done it. So,
Yeah.
it's like little things like that just really show the change, and to your point with the athletics and everything, it's something my life coach used to say as well was like, "You have to flex the mindset muscle."
Yeah.
The more you flex the muscle, the stronger that it gets, and it's all about repetition, it's all practice. You're gonna mess up, you're gonna make mistakes, you're gonna lose, you're gonna fail, however you wanna look at it, but you get back up and you keep going and you look for that evidence and you celebrate that evidence and you start to notice more of it and you realize that you can do this and you start to look in the mirror and see that confidence and is like, hell yeah, like I am doing this, like look at me go.
Yeah, that's awesome. So such valid. I love the pivot from the athletic flex standpoint of building self-confidence within your own mind, getting outside of your skin when looking in. That's incredible. That's really, really kudos to your life coach on those simple quotes. Not can, but will resonate for a long time. A year and a half in or so. So now we got a lot of unpacking to do. How does the journey lead us to now? Where are we?
So, yeah, so I worked with her. That was the first thing that I did. Also, in the mindset aspect, I kind of had to redefine my aspect of success. Because, going back to my childhood, again, I didn't have like major pressures or anything, but I just grew up with this like you have to go to school, you have to get good grades, you get a job right out of college, like you're financially stable. And I was a teacher at the time and I was losing my passion for it and
Mm,
I was scared. And after 15 years of teaching, I quit. Yeah.
wow.
And
Wow.
yeah, unfortunately, I did lose both of my parents within 3 years of each other,
I'm
so
sorry. Okay.
thank
My
you. Yeah, so
condolences.
that was, one of the setbacks. So I often wonder how they would feel about it with that whole new, like, version of success, but I knew that this was something that I needed to do.
So they passed after the new you.
Yes.
They passed before the new
My
you.
Yeah, my father passed before the new me, and my mom passed during,
During.
when I was
Okay.
still growing.
Still
I
growing.
mean, I'm always
Okay.
still growing, but,
Understood. Understood.
more in the
Understood.
beginning.
Understood. How
Yeah.
about your sister seeing the pivot?
Yeah, my sister is one of the most supportive people. I am so fortunate that we are so close.
Mm.
It's just me and her now. The rest of my extended family lives out of state, so she's been amazing. So she's been supportive and she's kind of been on her own journey and it's amazing to see her as well. So I'm lucky
She
to have
saw
that
the
person.
change in the flip with you.
Yep.
That's outstanding. That's outstanding. So not teaching anymore. Where is the pivot come? What are we doing?
Yeah.
What
So
happens?
I was fortunate enough that I was able to just quit with no backup for a little
Mhm,
bit,
mhm.
and I pursued my writing, and I started writing a little bit while I was in teaching, and then I just focused on it full time, and I was able to go ahead and publish my book.
That man, I'm grinning. I am like a brother from another mother, I would say with you. It's just, yeah, I am to just grinning. Like that is just outstanding. I'm so proud to hear this journey of somebody so insecure at such a young age and to blossom into serious change and not only change, take some radical measures, man. Because those that really know me, I dig that shit, man. I am balls to the wall, take no prisoners. You want something, you go after and get it, man. Because listen, we only got one life.
Exactly.
Seize the day. And being very faith driven, I'm very blessed on being who I am with my own religious base and direction, but balls to the wall, I dig that shit, man. That Erica, that is awesome. Writing a book, I know what it's about, but share what was the inspiration to put ink to paper to want to say, yep, I'm going to write a book. And I know you didn't write a thriller.
No.
Well, share about the book because the book is about the journey.
Yeah.
Talk to me.
Yeah, so I have always loved writing. I've always had a passion for writing. I used to write short stories as a kid. Being a teaching major, you were required to have a double major. My second
Mhm.
major was writing. So I've just always liked it. And I knew I wanted to write a book. I just wasn't sure what it would be about. I just knew it was something I wanted to do. And when all of this unfolded for me and I really saw how my life could change, I was like, this is it. This is what I need to share with the world because it's never too late for me to make this change at 35. Before I did it, even I thought like, "Oh my god, like, I'm too old for this." Like, I'm definitely like, this nothing can change. So, I knew I had to get it out into the world, and so it basically the life coach that I mentioned, she wrote the foreword, which was amazing, kinda came full circle, so she wrote that for me, and it shares my story. It's part storytelling, part journal. It shares exactly what I did to change my life and how it changed my life and how it can change somebody else's life. And then it's got those lines right in the book so you can start taking immediate action right inside of there because that's what it's all about. A lot, like I said, a lot of the steps sound basic. I talk about journaling, I talk about affirmations. It's a lot of the stuff that you hear all day, every day, but it's the way you do it and it's the way that you embody it and finding what works for you that matters. So I wanted to put that journal aspect in there so that people can take action right away and not just, close the book, put it on the shelf and forget they ever read it.
I'm, I'm speechless. You got to say the name because give me the
Oh, yeah.
name of
Yeah.
the
I
book.
have a copy.
Yes, you
Yeah.
are the vibe.
You are the vibe.
I love it, man. I love it. And we'll definitely give a very honoring plug as we wrap up
Oh,
the
thank you. Thank you.
show. But I got to tell you, I always, when helping people to, transition to be a better version of themselves from the physicality or so, it's always do as I say, do as I do. I'm living proof and being 59 and still actively, competing and on stage with bodybuilding events. And I live the talk, not talk and don't live. Getting life advice from somebody that just shared their journey on a public worldwide platform and then put it in writing. No one has to rewind this specifically. They can have it at their fingertips on what our journey expressed. That's amazing, man. And that's why people are going to know who Erica Knoll is. But before we end, I have two questions. If you went back in time at any point in time in your life, 35 years, and you got a chance to whisper in the ear of a very insecure young lady that may very, what would you say? to a young Erica Knoll?
That is a amazing question. I think I would tell her to keep going, to not give up, and just remind her that things can change. It gets better. And just, this is not just how you are. Like, keep going and chase your desires. Like, you have your desires for a reason. And I like to say that if you feel like you don't fit in, it's because you're meant for more. And so just reminding her to keep going down the path that she feels called to go on because it gets so good.
That's, that gave me chills. That's, why? Is because, you gave yourself advice that you did not have that advice, but you live that advice now and finally felt and realized that advice today. If that
Yeah,
at all makes sense, right? It's like,
makes sense to me.
yeah, that is awesome, man. I love that. That's great. The last is the obvious, the logo. People see this, what Unbroken means. And I just share, I got it tattooed on my forearm long before this channel or anything ever really unfolded. It's a true meaning of the heart is my mind, but mine specifically. This is all about me and my journey. It says my entire life. My heart, my mind, body, and soul, the EKG was everything I possibly went through, which is a lot. And those weights represent how heavy my life got specifically. But in the end, as my attitude and my comment, balls to the wall, take no prisoners, seize the moment, one body, it will never break me no matter what. I was definitely cracked. I was bent. I was torn, but I was not detached. Does that symbol represent in any way your journey?
Absolutely. I think it represents everyone's journey, honestly. It's funny because when I first met you and I first saw it, I met you outside of a gym and I
Mm-hmm.
was like, oh, it's like a fitness related symbol. And like it is because it's a dumbbell, but like
Right.
there's so much more meaning to it. And to me, when you explain it, when I hear what it really means, it just reminds me that the heaviness of life is inevitable. It's going to happen. Those ups, those downs, the downs are going to come and the heaviness of those weights, but the fact that it's, like, in the shape of a dumbbell reminds me that you can always lift back up. You can lift that dumbbell back up, and it's proof to me that you can fall, but you can get back up, and it reminds me that I proved to myself that I can rebuild from the ground up, and we always have that opportunity in life.
Thank you so much. That was awesome. And talking with you was amazing. Thank you so much for having the courage to come on the show and get raw, man. It's outstanding. I'll put the link. You Are the Vibe by Erica Knoll. I encourage not only to get the book, put the book to use. Don't let dust on it, because after listening to this interview, this young lady has so much more, not just to give herself, but to give others. So thank you, Eric. I truly appreciate it.
Thank you so much for inviting me on. This has been great.
Thank you.